This podcast is made possible by the listener members of Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's March 9th, 2026. On this day in 1985, the first ever Adopt a Highway sign was erected on Texas Highway 69, announcing that the Tyler Civitan Club had volunteered to pick up litter along that stretch of roadway. It was the brainchild of an engineer named Bobby Evans, who at that point had been attempting for 2 decades to get more people to care about the litter problem. From that work, he knew that the cost of cleanup was on the rise. People were, of course, still littering. Municipal employees were often the ones sent to clean up while on the clock, but only if they had a break in their other responsibilities. So maybe the litter would be cleaned. Maybe it would be left to rot on the shoulder or in a ditch. Then, while driving through Tyler, Evans ended up behind a messy pickup truck as bits and bobs of garbage rained out of the truck's bed. He knew the town would probably not get around to cleaning that anytime soon because it wasn't anyone's main job to handle, and because paying folks to do that work wasn't deemed good fiscal policy. I don't know if that was the straw that broke the camel's back, or if seeing such a large amount of trash all at once just sort of unlocked a stream of creativity. But he reacted to seeing that happen by issuing a challenge. He called from some local group to go out there and clean things up themselves instead of waiting for the government to handle it. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. The Adopt a Highway program started as a local solution to one community's version of a widespread problem. And the idea took off fast. And just a few years later, the concept was being mirrored here in Tennessee. And this state's Adopt a Highway program is still in place today. The concept is simple. A business or organization commits to caring for a 2-mile stretch of roadway for at least 1 year. Once a quarter, the group needs to line up a volunteer workforce that picks up litter using supplies that the state provides. In exchange for that effort, the group is recognized on a sign. It works on a few different levels. For one thing, it takes the cleanup job off the hands of a local government that's been overwhelmed or hasn't been willing to allocate money for a paid litter crew. The road and surrounding land are cleared of the mess. And it potentially reduces the ongoing problem because people are less likely to litter in a place where there isn't already visible trash. Oh, and the sign is almost like a small, cost-effective billboard for a group or business that wants to get its name out there. I mean, they're not allowed to advertise sales or recruit members on those signs, but they're planting the reminder that these guys exist and suggesting that they're good, community-minded folks. According to the Tennessee Department of Transportation, this state's highway adoption program has picked up more than 12 million pounds of litter since 1989. Across the state, hundreds of volunteer groups participate. And still, the state spends tens of millions of dollars on efforts related to litter each year. Education, promoting the adoption plan, but also having to pay staff to pick up litter. I do think our roads mostly seem cleaner than they did in, say, the 70s or the 80s, but there's still a lot of roadside trash. Beyond that adoption program, the state also runs a grant program to help local governments address their litter problems. The money for those grants comes from a tax on soft drinks and malt beverages. Interestingly, back in 1981, that industry actually asked the state to implement that tax so that they could be part of the solution, especially given that their own cans and bottles were all too often part of the litter that needed to be cleared. Now, I can't talk about roadside litter without giving a shout out to my mom, Karen. For one thing, she's always been the kind of person who just can't abide seeing trash without making sure it's dealt with. She's not one to just walk over a piece of litter. She'll pick it up and find a trash can somewhere nearby. And when I was little, she harnessed that impulse for good on a couple of levels. We didn't have a lot at that time, but there was a place in Antioch where a private recycler would pay cash for aluminum cans. So my mom used to walk through Smyrna picking up all kinds of litter and separating out the aluminum cans to get money so I could have a college savings account. And some people probably thought she was crazy. I know it definitely wasn't a pleasant task, but she took it on to invest in my education and to make our town a little bit cleaner and nicer. If you see litter, you can clean it up yourself, too. All you really need are trash bags and gloves, maybe a reflective vest for safety. But honestly, it's understandable if that's not really in your comfort zone. What you can do then is make sure all of your own trash is properly disposed of. And if you witness someone else littering, you can let officials know by calling TDOT's Litter Hotline, 877-8-LITTER or by filling out a form on the TDOT website. In just a few minutes, Health Q on whether or not health savings accounts are worth it. That's coming up after the newscast.
Here's the mantra I think about at WPLN. We connect the dots. It captures a mindset that our journalism is not merely about the latest press release or proclamations by officials. Instead, we can develop expertise, dig deeper, and look to history to understand what's happening now. I'm Tony Gonzalez, news director. When I'm planning coverage and editing stories, the best part is being part of a team that's curious about our community and invested in its future.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. A line of thunderstorms knocked out power to more than 5,000 customers over the weekend. While the storm front was minor, Nashville Severe Weather warned that it could take down precarious limbs left over from Winter Storm Fern. It was the largest outage since the ice storm Fern left more than 200,000 customers without power. NES had restored power to most of the affected customers by Sunday. At a rally inside a North Nashville church this weekend, protesters called on AT&T to cut ties with ICE. The telecommunications company has one of the largest contracts with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, more than $90 million to support ICE's IT services through 2032, according to Forbes. Recent reporting on enforcement operations in Nashville documented concerns about racial profiling and dehumanizing tactics used against community members. Organizers say the rally is part of a nationwide effort to challenge corporations for supporting ICE. A new leak of federal data reveals that 10 exhibits at Great Smoky Mountains National Park are the latest targets for removal by the Trump administration. WUOT's Pierce Gentry has the story.
For months, the National Park Service has been systematically removing plaques and monuments across the United States that refer to slavery, climate change, and other topics at the direction of the White House. Now, Great Smoky Mountains National Park, the country's most visited park, is being targeted. According to a massive leak of National Park Service data, 10 signs in the Smokies have been flagged for removal. They talk about air pollution in the mountains, a slave cemetery, and war crimes committed by Confederate soldiers during the Civil War.
It's really a shame that those signs are being removed.
That's Phil Francis, now retired from the National Park Service, who served as the Deputy Superintendent of the Smokies for 11 years.
Because they're simply talking about facts that occurred, things that occurred in the past that we can learn from.
He says the removal of signs in the Smokies is, in effect, erasing history.
And if we remove signs and literature from the public knowledge, the things that happened then may reoccur.
Staff at Great Smoky Mountains National Park did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A Nashville-based nonprofit has joined a lawsuit against the Trump administration challenging the removal of the signs. I'm Pierce Gentry, WUOT News.
A father's grief has sparked a push for reform at the Tennessee Capitol. Years after his son died at a CoreCivic prison, Tim Leeper is advocating for the creation of family advisory boards that would act as liaisons for families. If created, the board would hold public hearings and facilitate oversight, providing greater transparency and accountability. Leeper's son, Kylan, died of a drug overdose in 2023. The Tennessean reports the family sued CoreCivic the following year. Prisons run by the Brentwood-based company have been plagued by gang violence, contraband, overdose deaths, and other problems. The proposal passed the Senate Government Operations Committee unanimously and is heading to the House on Wednesday. Tennessee Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson sold his stock in Tesla recently to avoid any conflict of interest regarding legislation involving the Boring Company. The company is digging underground tunnels where it plans to drive people in Teslas from downtown Nashville to the airport. Elon Musk owns Boring and is Tesla's largest shareholder. A bill before lawmakers would give complete authority over Boring's Nashville tunnels to the state instead of the city. There have been concerns that Metro Nashville's government would be less friendly to the project. Johnson says he has no financial interest in the Boring Company, but opted to dump the stock because he supports the tunnel project. He sold 50 shares of Tesla stock at around $400 a share. City leaders are looking to address the child care shortage in Nashville. 2 pieces of legislation will be filed with Metro Council that work to make it easier to open new daycare facilities. One bill would streamline and expedite the permit process for new centers. Here's Councilmember Clay Capp, the bill's sponsor.
It's a similar process for expedition that we set up a few years ago for affordable housing projects, which has led to a really significant reduction in the time that it takes to review those projects. It doesn't change the review itself, the rigor of it, or the criteria for it. It just puts childcare up to the front of the line right after affordable housing.
The other bill would remove antiquated restrictions that prevent two childcare centers from operating within 1,000 feet of each other. Both items have the support of the mayor and will be taken up at the next Metro Council meeting on March 17th. Over the last decade, the number of Nashville Electric Service customers has grown by some 91,000, but staffing has not kept up. The Tennessean reports that a decade ago, the agency's budget included a staff of 916. For the current fiscal year, the headcount is pretty much flat, only 917. How much that pushed the energy system to its limit during Winter Storm Fern is unclear. NES has faced widespread scrutiny in recent weeks when thousands of Middle Tennesseans lost power and some waited more than a week to get it back. A commission chaired by former Governor Phil Bredesen is now set to investigate NES's preparation and response. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. More Americans than ever have access to a kind of savings account that lets them set aside money for medical expenses. But this option takes a little effort to set up and navigate. Blake Farmer and Kara Anthony from our Health Q series explain how it works.
I know it's not exciting to talk about saving for medical expenses, but Kara, I have really bought into the benefits of a health savings account, an HSA.
I can hear your enthusiasm, but I know talking about medical bills can make a lot of people's eyes glaze over.
I know, and I don't want to sound like a pitchman here, but a little bit of knowledge could mean a lot of savings, so let's talk through it.
I'll let you know if you start getting too pitchy.
With an HSA, you set aside money from your paycheck before taxes, then use that money to pay for medical expenses later. And not just hospital bills or doctor's visits. You can pay for medications, even over the counter. This is how I'm paying for my son's braces.
What's the difference between an HSA and an FSA? Because this sounds like a flexible spending account I have through my job.
Well, the real difference is in how these accounts work. With an FSA, you typically lose whatever money you haven't spent by the end of the year. Money you put into an HSA, that's yours. It stays there as long as you want. Think F for forfeit, H for hold on to.
Then why would anyone have an FSA?
Well, you can only open an HSA if you have a specific kind of health plan. Often these are called high deductible plans.
Those are the plans where you have to spend thousands of dollars before most benefits kick in.
Yes, but starting this year, many more plans, including bronze plans on the individual marketplace, now allow you to have an HSA. HSAs also have what they call a triple tax advantage. No taxes going in or coming out, and no taxes on any interest. It's basically like a tax-free investment account, but for medical expenses.
Tell me the flip side. What are the drawbacks?
Well, HSAs are a bit of an administrative headache. You've got to set yours up, use a special debit card, or reimburse yourself and hold on to the receipts. My HSA has this small monthly fee that really bugs me. But the real issue is people have got other priorities that are just more rewarding to plan for. I talked to a self-employed musician named Mike McKee who said he'd rather max out his retirement and his kids' college savings, even though he is eligible to use an HSA.
I'm so frustrated with the system that anything with medical savings and stuff, I'm just so turned off emotionally that I have to be really careful to be logical about it.
I feel you, Mike. It also seems like people who are living paycheck to paycheck are not going to be able to take advantage of an HSA.
That's what I heard from Michelle Long, who's a policy researcher at KFF.
HSAs in this way tend to benefit more the higher income enrollees because those are the ones who have the disposable income to set aside at the end of the month.
And it's people with higher incomes who have more to gain from getting discounts on their taxes, which is basically what this is.
Can I just say the way we pay for healthcare in this country is so complicated? But if figuring out an HSA could mean saving hundreds or thousands of dollars a year, I can see why the hassle might be worth it.
You are not wrong.
That's Kara Anthony and Blake Farmer of Health Q from WPLN and KFF Health News. We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday. Please consider subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. And thanks so much to all of you who've left 5 stars, a thumbs up, or a review in your app of choice. That little bit of love really does tell the algorithms that more people should hear about us. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can make a donation at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.